Woo! 1, 2. Kiitoksia noista. Se on Clash of Clans. All right. First, it's really an honor to be here. It's such a great show. It's really hard to top this stuff, but I'll try my best. If everything goes well, the next 18 minutes will be fucking dynamite! Woo! All right. Let's do it. All right. Since I can remember, I've always had a passion for video games. And it was year 1983. Look at that flashy... Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it was a year 1983. And it was like on any other day. I was at first grade of school. Yes, I'm 37 this summer. And I phoned my friend, like any other day, just to play football or something like that. And I phoned him up. And his mother answers the phone and says, oh yeah, Mikko, he can't come to the phone because he's playing video games. I was like, what's going on here? I didn't know what video games were. It was 83. There was no video games, really. And I was so bloody curious. I ran all the way from Kallio to Merihaka. And I found out this. They were playing VIC-20. It's not a Commodore 64, it's a VIC-20. They were playing the thing. I wasn't the first, the only kid there. There were 5 to 6 other kids, really curious, really hypnotized to the TV. And they were playing a game, and that game was called Berserk. Oops. Okay, that came a bit early, but it's part of the show. It is scripted this way. Okay, that's the actual game. Never mind. It's a snapping all over here. So from that point on, after seeing that game, when it was finally my turn to actually play that game, it was something really, really magical happened. I know everybody, a lot of you, played games, but something really special snapped into my brain. That's why the lovely animation there. Technical difficulties. So something really snapped into my brain, and I started to sort of pursue the world through a game, and I started to think about different games and, just ideas for games. I think already at that point, I kind of knew that I wanted to be doing something with games. Maybe be a game developer. That word didn't really exist, but, I really wanted to do games. And just the one example of that was that, when you have these kind of like friend books at school, when they asked, the girls have them normally, when they asked, like, what are we going to do when you grow up? And I wrote computer game repairman, because I thought there was something, they could be improved. Those games, they were good, but something, they were lacking something. So I basically, Jesus. I played games. Here's one of my favorite games. I googled them up, yay. And I just played. They really inspired me a lot. When it was, I basically, from that point on, I said, like, oh, Daddy, can we have a computer at home? And after a million times nagging that same sentence over and over again, I finally got my first computer, which was the C64, Commodore 64, back in '83, the original model, absolutely beautiful computer. And I did a lot of research, meaning that I played games. From that point on, I just played and played and played and played. And I wasn't really, back in the day, when you had a double-decker cassette deck, you could copy games really easily. But I wasn't really, I wanted to have the original games. There was something about the manuals, something about the original logo, something about the characters, the graphics. What was the developer thinking when they actually made that game? It was more than just the game. What were the backstories? I was really, really intrigued by that. Then came 1992. I knew back in the '83, that someday I will become a computer games repairman, whatever fuck that meant. So that day finally came at 92. I was in this new school, starting a new school. I didn't know anybody, but there was this one guy who kind of shared my passion to video games. His name was Mikko Miettinen, and instantly, or straight away, we started to brainstorm games and talk about games in general. Oh, what are you playing? And you could see, or you could tell by this guy that he wasn't just a keen player. He was been analyzing games a lot. It wasn't just the, oh, I like games. Yeah, me too, but so what, It was actually, it was more, it's really hard to describe, but he was more than that, just that. So we kind of hooked up, and he said, like, listen, Lasse, we were actually cooking some game prototype. I was like, yeah, fuck it, yeah, right. But then he invited me to his place, and he actually showed me that prototype. And it was seriously cool. It was seriously cool. And from that point on, we started to brainstorm our own game. What would be the best game in the world, the game of our dreams? Actually, that game ended up being Alien Incident, later localized as muukalaisten yö. And woo! Yeah. Brilliant. And the whole brainstorming session was a really, really freestyling thing. We didn't write anything down. Nothing, not a single paper. Everything, we were so into it. We could remember every detail of every single conversation of the design we had. Oh yeah, then he goes to here, and then he goes to here, and this is how the map looks, and all that stuff. It was an adventure game, and it was a huge chunk for us. We were 16 at the time. So it was a huge undertaking for 16-year-old kids to be taken. That's actually the first sketch that I've actually done for Alien Incident. And back in the day, there was a one problem with this. It was me and Mikko. Mikko was the programmer. I was the so-called artist. But to this point, I've only used pen and paper. But computers are digital. The graphics need to be digitized somehow. I wouldn't know how. So I made that kind of sketch. And you could see that the lines are really thick because we actually scanned them in. And we actually tried, in Helsinki, we tried to find who would have a scanner? Who would have a scanner? Nobody fucking bloody has a scanner at 92. They were rare things, seriously. So we went to advertising agency, fancy, with Macintosh computers. And I remember paying 100 Finnish marks for get that baby scanned in. And then we were on the run. But we needed somebody else. We needed an artist who could actually take that image and color it and make it beautiful. So we put ads on the paper looking for an artist. But there's one criteria. He or she, they would need to have a computer. And the computer at the time was Amiga. I'm making myself ridiculous now because I'm showing old, old photos. I'm the guy, holding that stupid pole. And this was actually taken from the first sort of computer magazine cutout. This was 93 at October. The magazine was called Amiga Format. And this company was called Bloodhouse. Yeah. We were kids, we were teens. Bloodhouse, yeah, cool. So, yeah, there were other companies starting up at the time. There was actually a company called Terramark, which then fusioned to Bloodhouse to become a Housemark, clever, and another company called Remedy a year later. After extremely cruciating and extremely hard and painful years, some of us which we still are suffering, we actually managed to get that thing out. And it took us 3 years to get it out, and it was the first Finnish PC game ever to be sold. It was a huge complement from a bunch of kids. From that image. Yeah. So we were at the time we were 16 and to 18, and the oldest ones were obviously the CEOs of that time. Didn't think what we'd do with these guys. You be a CEO now. All right. So then then it was actually after Alien Incident, it was 97, and the consoles were a new big thing. And that's PlayStation 1. So I was trying to look for some sort of new challenges. I went to Ireland, for all the places, Dublin. That's why the accent here, if you're trying to sort of pinpoint that. This was you know, I went there. The team was roughly 15 people, and this felt like a proper company. Before this time, all the games were like done by hobbyists. It was more like tinkering in the basement, and it was really nerdy stuff. But I felt in here, I met a great bunch of people who really inspired me, who really fueled my passion to make even greater games, or kind of be more passionate about games. They really taught me a lot. It was great to be here. I was at the time, I was 20 years of age. I was free to do games, and that's what I did. By me saying I was free to do games, I skipped everything else. I skipped girlfriends. I didn't want girlfriends. Who would want girlfriends? Jesus. You know, I completely focused my entire life for making games. And I always say, it sounds a bit sad, but it is true. It is true. So, and with that small bunch of people, we really had a passion. There was a couple of examples. One guy broke his arm. You know, we were finishing off a motocross game. One guy, broke his collarbone. I was like, oh, fuck. Then the next day, he learned how to draw with his left hand. This was actually one of the games that I was working on. See that road texture, the kind of orangey, sandy texture? That took over 500 iterations between me and my buddy Phil. Just the color had to be right. It just had to be right. It couldn't be any other. I know. But, you know, this is the kind of passion that really goes into these things. So it's the passion to, and games, what games are all about. Obviously, there's a lot of the audiovisual stuff that you see here. But to me, even though I'm kind of like an art guy, it's never the art itself. It's the whole package. How the character moves, how he jumps. What kind of sound does he or she make when landing that jump? How does it feel to control that jump? Those are super important topics that I could talk about for days. Yeah? I didn't have a girlfriend. Yeah, you can figure that out. So, but the most importantly, you know, we were all passionate about doing games. But most importantly, which I'm kind of trying to go here, is the actual surroundings of the small companies. They were so super loose. You know, they allow us to be super passionate about games, and we were, you know. Yeah, sorry about the stock images. I'm not really. I'm passionate about making games, not building beautiful PowerPoints. So a rule of thumb is that if you're working on any kind of project, if the teams around you are happy, if they're really happy, if they're really enjoying the work, that project, that product, it can go to places. But if the team is unhappy and sarcastic and being cynical about it, you know, you're screwed, basically. I don't think there's no exceptions to this rule. So small companies, in this way, they fueled the passion of talented people to go forward with the ideas. So I went from 5 people teams to 10 people teams to 20 people teams, and all of a sudden, then I moved to England, and all of a sudden, I was in a 70 people company. And we were doing next gen console titles. And all of a sudden, when you have 70 people, in those 70 people, there's actually 5 people or 10 people to maximum who actually do the work. Who's ever been in a team like that? You know, the productivity suffers, and most importantly, those 5 people who actually do the work are suffering the most because they can't see slacking off. I fucking hate slacking off. So it's going to look like this. There's some poor bastard, and all these managers and all the hierarchy starts to creep in. I really wanted to get out of that scenario. So I moved out. Finland. So back to Finland. I thought, okay, maybe you know, there's a whole bunch of new companies here. Let's do some great here. And I went to a company called Sulake, which was kind of like a startup, Sulake, which was a startup at the time. And I worked on a bunch of games, and it was great for a while. But as the startups grow, it started to have the same symptoms as my previous experience. You know, there were hierarchy. You know, things weren't moving that fast. I spent, I don't know, over 7 years in that company. Great memories, but still, when you have something small, do not be destroying it. Do not be destroying the passion of creating something by creating hierarchy, unnecessary hierarchy in the company. So why I was actually hired here, you know, this is all boring before. So Supercell, yeah. I met these guys, and they were small. They were really, really passionate about it. All of a sudden, I felt the same thing I felt in school back in '92 when I met Mikko Miettinen. These guys were even more passionate than I was. I said to myself, Jesus, you know, these guys are really better up my game. I thought I was a rock star by the time, but these guys were better. They were way better than me. And yeah, it was a great feeling. I was put in a spot. I was in a pressure. I need to really do something really great here to be able to work with these guys. So this was actually the first sketch. Everything starts with a kind of some sort of vision of a game. So this is the first sketch of Clash of Clans. It's all in pieces at the moment, but it was start of 2012. We were a 5-people team. We were back to the roots in a way. It was exactly like we started Alien Incident back in '92. But this time there's one difference. The team had done games, I don't know, tens of games, and they had years and years of experience. We didn't make stupid mistakes. We were trying to focus. It was all about the focus. We're trying to focus, and we're trying to do the hardest thing first. We always picked what is the hardest thing of this game? Oh, we don't know this design of this particular thing. Okay, let's do that. So we managed to pull it out. I'm really, really, really happy we did. One of my best times in my life was to do this game. The words really can't really describe of the feeling. Yeah, you could say that, yeah, you got lucky and stuff like that. But basically, we actually set our minds to do a hit game, which we did. But we actually set our minds to do. It's now or never. The team is such a great team. It has to be now or never. Again, I used the super freestyle style. We didn't write anything down. It was completely, we were so into it. Oh yeah, of course we're going to do it. We don't have to have daily meetings at morning to tell people what to do. Everybody bloody knew what they were going to do. Okay, here's my conclusion. Making games is hard work. I don't know if it's kind of, you know, came across here, but it actually is. You could say now when the industry is in headlines and, oh, you guys are making a lot of money and there's a lot of, you know, Angry Birds and everything. But it's actually really hard to create a game, any kind of game. Whoever's kind of done a game from scratch, from the beginning to the release point, knows this by the hard way. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of stress. Change is the only constant, meaning that the platforms obviously change. Some guy might do the best game in the world, but oops, it's in a wrong platform. Nowadays, the tablets are, you know, taking over the world, really. So you really need to be, technology-wise, you need to be eye on the ball. And also the games these days, they are designed as a service. So almost like a digital TV series, if you will. So when you put the game out, you crunch for hours and you're half dead. And you put the game out, that's only the beginning. Last point, there are no shortcuts. So even though the tools have been revolutionized since the C64 era, but still tools are just tools. They're not the whole soul of the game. And to create soul of the game, you really need to work hard. There's no single really good book being written about how to create games either. And they are hard work. This process took me 20 years, over more than 10 games to be here. But it was really, really great to be working on a truly successful game for the first time. Thank you.